Hello everyone, welcome to Real Chat. I'm Mark.
And I'm Sophie.
And today we will be reviewing the 2008 horror classic,
Let the Right One In. Let the Right One In is a Swedish vampire film directed by Thomas Alfredson. Set in a bleak Stockholm suburb in the early 80s, the film follows Oscar, a lonely and bullied 12-year-old boy, who forms an unusual friendship with Ely, a mysterious child who has recently moved into the apartment next door.
As their relationship develops, Oscar gradually discovers that Ely is a vampire who survives with the help of an older guardian who provides victims. The film blends elements of horror and coming-of-age drama, using their relationship to explore themes of loneliness, violence, and the desire for connection. So, Sophie, you've been watching a lot of horror films lately because you're doing a project at college about horror. What did you make of this classic film? Now, you saw it for the first time. Mm-hmm. I've seen it quite a few times. Mm-hmm. What do you make of it?
Well, I am definitely a big fan of horror, and I do watch a lot of horror films. And when you watch a lot of horror films, you do notice patterns and kind of the same tropes being used over and over again, especially when using archetypes like vampires. And so in vampire films, you usually see the vampires be these attractive young adults who are almost lustful in a way for blood and such. But this film, I felt, was very different to that because the vampire in this film is a 12-year-old girl. Like, she is a child, and I thought that was quite interesting because definitely initially, at the start, I felt very sorry for this child. I was like, you know, this poor girl has to do all these awful things just to survive. Like, this is, you know, it had quite an emotional impact. But then, as I kept watching the film, she kind of was portrayed a bit differently than that initial, innocent, childlike girl. Like, she became somewhat predatory, and there were glimpses there where she looked quite disturbing and different to how we were usually seeing her. And I thought that was an interesting way to portray vampires because usually we just see them as one figure, like as one person. But in this, it was kind of changing your perspective on what a vampire is and showing that they aren't who they are. Like, it's very much appearance versus reality. Like, because vampires typically are hundreds of years old, but we only see one version of themselves. So I quite liked how this movie portrayed two different versions, and also in a subtle way as well. Yeah,
I think that there were some wonderful visual bits that you picked up on about how Ely seems like almost a sweet, innocent girl at the start. And then we get visual glimpses. There's that wonderful bit where she says, "Oscar, be me for a while," or something like that. And we get this visual of this really haggard old vampire. It reminds you, like you say, that there's actually something quite old and decaying behind the surface appearance. Yeah. What I find quite interesting about this film is because it's actually quite a violent film. Yeah. But the violence is visually kept at a distance. Yeah. So it's not like a lot of horror, because I'm not a huge fan of horror because I hate the jump scares and the gore and all that sort of thing. And one of the reasons why I really love this film is because it does something with the genre that I haven't seen done quite in the same way before. There have been representations of young people as vampires, but not as a kind of central character. I know in Interview with the Vampire, there's the young girl who's permanently 8 years old or something like that. This young girl who on the inside she's a woman, and yet she's, you know, condemned to be in a child's body. This is really interesting about Ely. Having watched it several times, I really noticed it the other night when we watched it, that Ely says at least three times to Oscar, I am not a girl. and that hints at something more mysterious. Now, initially, I thought that meant, oh, you're not a girl, you're a vampire. But now I think if someone says in 2026, if someone says I'm not a girl, you think, oh, there's something else going on there, and that really stood out to me.
Yeah.
We actually learn in the book that Ely is actually a boy and was castrated centuries earlier, but that's underplayed in the film. How innocent was this relationship then?
Well, I think initially, like as you're watching it, you think it's quite wholesome and quite sad because you have Oscar who is bullied and he essentially doesn't have any friends, and he finally meets someone who is willing to spend time with him and genuinely wants to, or seems like she wants to. And so you think it's sweet, but as it goes on, you kind of get the sense that Ely doesn't want to be friends with Oscar. Like, she wants something different. And Oscar, the innocent child that he is, doesn't really see it. But I feel like when I was watching it, there was a sense of Ely is kind of using Oscar. And, you know, like, I think this was just emphasized by, you know, how you mentioned the distance of the violence. I think that's also a good representation of, like, how, like, Oscar is a child and he only sees certain things and he doesn't, like, see where he's in the swimming pool and he doesn't see what's going on around him. I feel like that it also shows in his relationship with Ely because he doesn't understand that there could be ulterior motives for Ely and could just be using him to replace her father, shall we say.
So maybe poor Oscar's going to take the role of the guardian. But I sometimes wonder how much Oscar wants to be like Ely in terms of having that capacity for unrestricted violence, because he's burning on the inside, isn't he? He wants to get away. He feels detached and isolated. When we see his relationship with his mother, there's lots of touching walls and glass, and they're in different rooms, aren't they? His relationship with his father gets interrupted when a friend calls and has a drink, and he feels kind of abandoned. He kind of feels that he doesn't know where he is. And you can see why he's drawn to Ely in that sense. And of course, the bullies. You were saying, you said something interesting the other day about how in a typical vampire film, usually the vampires are the villains to a certain degree. I mean, if you go right back to the classic Dracula, 1931 with Bela Lugosi, you know, he is the evil vampire. But in this film, it's kind of turned on its head, isn't it? Who are the villains, I suppose? Who do you see as the real evil, perhaps? Is it Ely? Maybe by the end, in terms of being predatory. But certainly the bullies. I've got to say, without giving too much away about the ending, but what happened in the swimming pool and stuff, where it was kind of like, I mean, there really are some astonishing bits in this film. The cinematography is utterly awesome. Because it's set in 1980s Stockholm in a suburb. It has a real sense of time and place and a kind of sadness to it. But it's got this, I don't know, with snow, and it feels bright and crisp as well. Yet that makes the blood stand out even more.
Exactly.
In places. So I thought it was an incredible film. I always have done. It's one of my favourite films of all time, I would say. Certainly my favourite horror film. How's it ranked for you at the moment?
I think it's probably one of my favourite horror films.
You do? Definitely. You think it's a good one?
I think it was great. I really enjoyed it.
So it was good to show you that one.
Definitely. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, let's grab the scorecards. It's time for us to commit to a score. Now, so here we go. These are our scores for Let the Right One In, the classic vampire movie from 2008. Here we go. Okay, so I gave it 9.5.
I gave it an 8.9.
You give it an 8.9.
Yeah.
Now, I would normally give it, I would actually, a film like this, I would normally give a 10, but I docked half a mark. And it was the cats scene that
Oh yeah, I
the
didn't quite get that one.
the CGI cats is the only thing that
it's just a bit.
it's the only thing that for me doesn't quite gel in an otherwise perfect movie. But there we have it then. Let the right one in. Thank you for watching. Thank you for getting this far, and hope to see you in the next video. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.